Hello everyone, welcome back. This is video 2 of class 9. It's chapter 17, ratio analysis. If you recall from the first video, we talked about profitability ratios and liquidity ratios. In this video, we're going to talk about debt management ratios, asset management ratios, and something called the DuPont analysis. Okay, let's get started. Okay, let's see here. Let's take a slideshow from the current screen. There we go. Okay. The debt ratios measure how well we are managing our debt of our organization. What we're going to do is we'll again continue on with the Excel spreadsheet that I have that shows you how to mechanically calculate those. And then we'll also talk about what they're measuring. So we're going to look at the debt ratio and the times interest earned ratio. That's the TIE ratio. And EBIT means earnings before interest and taxes. And we're going to go through and calculate these exact ratios. So let's go to the next slide. Well, you know what we're going to do? Let's go right over to Excel and calculate these. Okay, the debt ratio. So here we go. It's the total debt to the total assets. Okay, let's start here. Equal sign to reference that we're going to do something in that cell block. Go find our total debt. And our total debt would be, for this, there's lots of different ways people will include what they include in total debt. In this calculation, we're going to include our current liabilities plus all our long-term liabilities. So there's our total debt and our total asset. Let's go back over here and we can see our total assets right there. And there we go, 2903. Now, in general, what this ratio is telling you is how much debt you have on all your assets. And a 0.29 is pretty low. That's good. In general terms, creditors prefer low debt ratios because if they're going to be lending you money, they don't want to be competing with other debt in getting payment on that debt. So it's real important to have a decent ratio. On the other hand, a higher ratio may mean that you're really trying to leverage your assets, and that's a business decision. So again, it can be good and it can be bad, but you obviously don't want to have a ratio that's you're over leveraging. Okay, now let's see if that is the same number that we got, that they got in the PowerPoint. Yes, 0.29 and 0.29. So there we go. Now let's do the earnings before interest and taxes. Okay, go back over here. Now, in this example, here's our earnings, and we're going to add back interest and taxes. Because we're a nonprofit, we don't have any tax expense, but we do have interest expense, which is right there. And then, again, divide that by the interest expense. Same interest expense we have here. And 6.56. Let's see if we calculated that correctly. 6.56 rounded to 6.6. So yes, we did. Go back to our calculation. So what these interest times interest earned really is calculating is the income that we have available to be able to pay our interest expense. And the reason that's so important, especially for lenders, there's a lot of legal issues and a lot of it's banks, if you don't pay their interest back, they're the ones that go after you very quickly and can lead to legal issues and even bankruptcy. So it's a very important ratio that banks and lenders will look at to see if you have the ability to pay that. And then it's very important for you as you're going along to make sure that you are able to have the money to pay back that interest because you don't want to get caught in trouble. Excuse me. A lot of times the banks will put covenants that you have to maintain certain ratios, and this is often one of them where you'll have to have the times interest earned ratio at a certain amount. And if you go under it, it's a warning to the lender that you might not be able to pay back your interest expense, and they'll start watching you closer. Or even sometimes, if it's really bad, if they don't think you can recover, they'll pull the loan. And that actually, a lot of times, unless you can find other sources of financing, can throw you into bankruptcy. So I'll come back to the slide PowerPoint presentation, see what they say next. Okay. So the debt ratio in 2011 was 29, and it was higher in 2010 in the industry average. So we're very low on we don't have very much debt compared to the assets we have. And then the times interest earned, 6.6, again, very high. We've definitely improved, and the industry average is 4.0. So let's move on to the next ratio. And this is the fixed asset turnover. It measures the utilization of your net fixed assets, your property, plant, and equipment. And then the turnover, the total revenue, total assets is your total asset turnover. Measures how your assets are producing in total revenue dollars. So let's go and calculate these. Okay. Total revenue. Be back here on our income statement. And remember, total revenue in our case is the total revenue from operations and also the non-operating income. So put the numbers together. Total fixed assets would be on the balance sheet, right? And here we go. This is your gross plant equipment, your accumulated, and your net. So we're going to take the net number, put it in there, and there's your percent. Now, since this ratio, total asset turnover, takes the same number of total revenue over on the numerator, I just simply reference this cell here, so I don't have to go back over to the financial statement because I know it's the same number. And that's a fine trick to use. However, remember, if you made a mistake here, you're going to have a mistake there too. So now let's find what our total assets are. And there it is. And there we go. So 0.97 and 0.78, 0.9897 and 0.78. This is actually going to round up to 0.9. Okay, great. So now that we've got those done, we're going to jump into something called the DuPont analysis. And this was developed by the company DuPont. Their managers wanted to have a better understanding. They were doing a lot of acquisitions, and they wanted to have a lot of different companies and manufacturing plants all over the world, and they wanted to be able to measure them. So they came up with very interesting analysis. And I'm not going to go through and calculate it all for you, but I want to explain it out for you because it's really taking some of the same ratios we have above and putting it together. So what it does is it takes your total margin times your total asset turnover times your equity multiplier to give us your return on equity. The return on equity, we calculated up here. Let's see here. Here it is, return on equity, 0.8. So what this DuPont analysis is really doing, it's taking that return on equity and breaking it into three different pieces So it's almost like variance analysis, where you can go in and see what components of the return on equity are making it good or bad. You could be very good on your net income to revenue, your total margin, but bad on your total asset turnover. And then you can see what part of your financial statements you need to start improving. So again, your total margin measures your expense control, and in our case, it was 0.073. Return on our net income based on our return on revenue was a pretty decent amount at 0.073 or 7.3%. Total asset turnover, that measures how well you're utilizing your assets. So here we have 77 cents or 70.77, which is not bad on our total assets. And then our equity multiplier measures our debt utilization. How well are we using our equity debt as a component of our total assets? And that was at 1.409. These two were ratios that we calculated already up here. This one I just calculated in this cell. It's right off our financial statements, and you can see I took my total assets by my total equity right off the balance sheet. And that all, believe it or not, multiplies out. It's this times this times this equals our 8%, which is equivalent to ratio right here, our return on equity, our net income over total equity. So you can see why it's a great ratio and a good tool, because you can really drill down into understanding what is driving your organization in a very simple, easy way. Once you've calculated it, you can understand the different pieces, and you can compare this right away to other organizations or industry standards. Well, believe it or not, that is it for video 2. It was short and sweet. The video 3 will be getting into some other analytics and techniques. Briefly discuss the economic value added analysis technique. And then that'll be it for the class, and that will be it for any new material we're going to have in this whole class. So I'll see you in video 3 very soon. Thank you.